The arrival of the outsiders. The night sky shimmered with stars as usual, but tonight something different hovered above Earth. It wasn't a meteor or a satellite. The massive, dark silhouette of an alien ship loomed, its presence unsettling in the quiet. Below, cities across the world stared in shock at the monitors and skies, trying to comprehend what they were witnessing. Within the ship, alien beings, vastly different from humans, analyzed the planet they had studied for so long. These were the Zolfran, a technologically advanced race that had once seen Earth as insignificant, a world of death, where inhabitants constantly fought for survival against nature, disease, and each other. They called Earth a death world, a place too perilous to consider. But now, something about the humans intrigued them. There was a resilience, a determination in these creatures that defied all logic. Inside the control room of the ship, two Zolfran officers stood before a large screen, watching footage of humanity's history. "Are they really as dangerous as they seem?" muttered Kryn, a sleek, multi-limbed Zolfran, his scales shimmering in the soft light. His voice was laced with curiosity rather than fear. "We underestimated them," replied the more experienced Nixel, whose eyes, larger than any human's, were fixed on a scene of humans rebuilding after a natural disaster. They adapt, evolve, and unite under pressure in ways that no other species in the galaxy can. Kryn gestured toward the screen, which now showed humans during times of conflict. "They're violent, unpredictable. How can we ever hope to understand them?" Nixel turned, his eyes narrowing in thought. "Perhaps that's precisely why they're so fascinating. We must approach with caution and respect." Down on Earth, within a hidden base, the global leaders had already gathered to form a response to the arrival of the alien vessel. The humans had long known that they were not alone in the universe, but the sudden presence of such an advanced species still shook them. General Elena Vasquez, a battle-hardened leader with a sharp mind and a calm demeanor, stood before a screen that broadcasted the image of the alien ship. Her voice, steady and firm, addressed the council. "We have prepared for this day for decades. We knew it was only a matter of time before they would find us. But now that they're here, we must be cautious. We don't know their intentions." Across the room, Dr. Ethan Clark, a brilliant scientist and expert in xenobiology, watched the alien ship in awe. "If they're here, it means they see something in us, perhaps our survival against the odds." Elena looked at him, her eyes narrowing slightly. "We're not sure if this is a peaceful visit. We need to be ready for anything." The tension in the room was palpable, but despite the uncertainty, there was a sense of unity. The humans, divided by nations and cultures for so long, now stood together in the face of the unknown. Above, aboard the Zolfran ship, Nixel and Kryn observed Earth's military forces preparing for what could be an invasion. But instead of fear, they found themselves fascinated. "They prepare for battle, yet they do not flee," Nixel mused. "They're not a prey species," Kryn observed with a hint of admiration. "They fight, even when the odds are against them." Nixel activated the communication systems, sending a signal to the humans below. "Let's see how they react to diplomacy." Moments later, General Vasquez received a transmission. The alien language was unlike anything they had ever heard before, but within moments, the universal translator embedded in their systems began to decipher it. "Humans of Earth," the alien voice spoke, slow and deliberate. "We are the Zolfran. We come not as conquerors, but as observers. Your world has long intrigued us, and now we wish to understand more about your people." Elena's eyes narrowed. "Observers? What do they want?" Dr. Clark leaned closer to the screen, curiosity burning in his eyes. "Maybe this is an opportunity, one to learn from them as well. We shall engage." The Global Council was divided. Some believed it was a trap, while others saw it as an unprecedented chance for peaceful contact. Finally, Elena stepped forward and spoke into the communication system. "Zolfran, this is General Elena Vasquez, representing Earth. We are open to dialogue, but know this: We will defend ourselves if necessary. There was a brief pause before the Zolfran responded. We understand. We do not seek conflict, only knowledge. Elena nodded. Then let's begin the exchange. The meeting of minds. Several days later, under strict security measures, the first meeting between the humans and the Zolfran took place aboard a neutral space station orbiting Earth. On one side of the table sat General Vasquez and Dr. Clark, representing humanity. On the other side were Nixel and Kryn, their alien forms imposing but not threatening. The room was filled with tension as both sides regarded each other cautiously. Nixel was the first to speak. We have observed your species for centuries. You live on a planet that defies reason, yet you thrive. Your capacity for survival is unparalleled. How do you do it? Elena glanced at Dr. Clark before answering. Humans are driven by a need to adapt. We face challenges head-on and find solutions, even in the most hopeless situations. Kryn tilted his head, intrigued. Your species is violent, yet you also show compassion. How do you reconcile such contradictions? Dr. Clark leaned forward. It's true that we've had wars, conflicts, and destruction, but it's also in those moments that we come together, finding strength in unity. When pushed to the brink, we don't just survive, we evolve. The Zolfran shared a look, processing the information. Nixel's voice was contemplative. Your species has much to offer the galaxy, but there are also dangers in your unpredictability. We must understand if you are a threat. Elena's voice was firm. We're not a threat unless provoked. But know this, if we are attacked, we will defend ourselves with everything we have. Nixel and Kryn exchanged glances before Nixel responded. We respect your strength and determination. Perhaps there is much we can learn from one another. For the first time, the tension in the room eased. Both sides began to see the potential for cooperation. Yet, beneath the surface, there was an unspoken understanding. This was only the beginning. Both the humans and the Zolfran knew that this encounter would shape the future of their species, for better or worse. As the meeting concluded, Nixel turned to Elena and Clark. We have much to discuss in the coming days. This is not the end, merely the beginning. Elena nodded. We'll be ready. The humans and the Zolfran left the table with the same thought lingering in their minds. What would come next? A fragile alliance. The days following the initial meeting between the humans and the Zolfran were filled with cautious optimism. Both sides recognized the opportunity for something far greater than themselves, an alliance that could change the course of their respective futures. However, with such potential came a weight of uncertainty and mistrust. On Earth, the Global Council convened once again, this time to discuss the next steps. General Elena Vasquez stood at the center of the room, her face serious but calm. The Zolfran are curious about us. They see something in humanity that they either admire or fear. We must be prepared for both. Dr. Ethan Clark, seated nearby, leaned forward. We have a rare chance to learn from them as well. Their technology is centuries beyond ours. If we approach this correctly, we could unlock secrets of the universe that we never dreamed possible. A skeptical voice rose from the back of the room. And what if it's a trap? The speaker was Minister Roberts, a representative from one of Earth's more militaristic nations. What if they're simply biding their time, waiting to strike? Elena's eyes narrowed slightly. We can't afford to be paranoid, but we also can't afford to be naive. We proceed with caution, but we proceed. The room fell silent for a moment, everyone absorbing the weight of the situation. It was a delicate balance, trusting an alien species that had the power to destroy them while ensuring that humanity didn't walk blindly into a disaster. After a brief pause, the Council voted in favor of continuing the dialogue. A delegation was formed to meet with the Zolfran again, this time on Earth. The arrival on Earth. The Zolfran delegation, led by Nixel and Kryn, descended from their ship in a sleek, advanced shuttle that hovered silently as it landed on the platform outside the meeting facility. The human delegation stood ready to greet them, including General Vasquez, Dr. Clark, and several key members of the Global Council. As the shuttle door opened, the air seemed to tense. The Zolfran were physically imposing, their tall, multi-limbed forms sleek and elegant. Their scales glimmered in the light, and their large eyes seemed to take in every detail of their surroundings. Nixel stepped forward, his voice smooth, but laced with curiosity. Earth, so different from our world, yet it's full of life and complexity. We are honored to be here. Elena stepped forward, offering a respectful nod. We welcome you to our planet, Nixel, Kryn. I hope this visit will strengthen our understanding of one another. The Zolfran, despite their alien forms, returned the gesture. As do we, Nixel replied. Dr. Clark smiled slightly. It's part of who we are. We adapt, we evolve. That's what makes humanity so resilient. Nixel, still observing the surroundings, spoke thoughtfully. But your resilience comes at a cost, does it not? Your history is marked by conflict, violence, and destruction. How do you reconcile such duality? Elena's expression hardened slightly. We're not perfect, Nixel, but we learn from our mistakes. And when we're united, there's nothing we can't achieve. The room settled into silence for a moment, both sides reflecting on the words spoken. It was clear that the Zolfran viewed humanity with both fascination and caution, recognizing the potential for greatness, but also the danger that came with it. A test of trust. As discussions continued, it became apparent that the Zolfran were not just here to observe. They had their own challenges, ones that required humanity's help. Nixel, sensing that the time was right, turned to Elena and Clark. There is something we have not yet shared with you. Our species, the Zolfran, faces a grave threat. We have long been the dominant force in our region of space, but there is another, an enemy that seeks to destroy us. Kryn continued, his voice more urgent. The Ordrak, a race of conquerors, relentless in their pursuit of domination. They have wiped out entire civilizations in their path. We have fought them for centuries, but their numbers are endless. The room fell into a stunned silence. The Zolfran, despite their advanced technology, were asking for help. Elena's brow furrowed. You're saying that you need us, to fight. Nixel shook his head. No, not to fight. We have enough soldiers for that. What we lack is ingenuity. The Ordrak are relentless, and while we have the strength, we lack the creativity to outmaneuver them. That is what we have seen in humanity, a species that thrives in the face of impossible odds. Dr. Clark, who had been silent, finally spoke. You want us to help you strategize, to find new ways to combat the Ordrak. Kryn nodded. Exactly. We believe that with your help, we can turn the tide of the war, but we understand if you choose not to get involved. The weight of the request hung in the air. For humanity, this was not just about helping an alien race, it was about survival. If the Ordrak were as dangerous as the Zolfran claimed, then Earth could one day be in their path as well. Elena exchanged a glance with Dr. Clark, both of them understanding the gravity of the situation. We need to discuss this with our council, she said finally. But know this, we won't stand by while a threat like that looms over the galaxy. Nixel bowed his head slightly in acknowledgement. We understand. Take the time you need. But remember, time is something we may not have much of. The debate on Earth. Back on Earth, the Global Council was once again thrown into intense debate. The Zolfran's request had sparked fear, hope, and uncertainty in equal measure. Some argued that humanity should stay out of galactic affairs, focusing on their own survival rather than involving themselves in a war that wasn't theirs. We don't even know the full truth of this Ordrak threat, one council member argued. We could be walking into a trap. But others, including General Vasquez, saw the bigger picture. If the Zolfran are telling the truth, and the Ordrak are as dangerous as they say, we could be next. If we help now, we stand a chance of preparing for future. Dr. Clark spoke up, his voice calm but firm. This is an opportunity, not just to protect ourselves, But to learn from one of the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy, we would be foolish to pass this up. After hours of heated debate, the Council came to a decision. Humanity would aid the Zolfran, but only under strict conditions. Earth would remain neutral in the broader galactic conflict, but would offer its expertise in strategy and technology. A partnership forged. The next day, Elena and Dr. Clark stood before Nixel and Kryn once again. "We've decided to help," Elena said. "But understand this, our involvement is limited. We will not send troops, but we will offer our knowledge, our creativity, and our resources." Nixel's eyes glimmered with what could only be described as relief. "That is all we ask." And so, a fragile alliance was formed. The Zolfran, with their vast technology and power, and humanity, with their ingenuity and resilience, began working together to find a way to defeat the Ordrak. But even as the partnership grew, both sides knew that the challenges ahead would test them in ways they had never imagined. Shadows of war. The days turned into weeks as humanity and the Zolfran worked tirelessly to forge their new alliance. It was a partnership built on necessity rather than trust, and both sides knew that any misstep could lead to disaster. While the Ordrak threat loomed over them, there was an unspoken tension in the air, one that both species struggled to ignore. Secrets of the Zolfran. Deep in the heart of the Zolfran ship, Nixel sat in quiet contemplation. The vessel was an impressive feat of engineering, with technology that could bend space-time, manipulate energy fields, and detect minute shifts in gravitational forces. Yet, for all its power, the Zolfran were on the verge of being overwhelmed by the Ordrak. Kryn entered, her footsteps barely audible on the polished floor. "You seem troubled," she said, her voice carrying a soft hum that echoed in the chamber. Nixel's large, reflective eyes flickered toward her. "We've asked much of them," he said, "perhaps too much. The humans are intelligent, resourceful, but they are also unpredictable." Kryn crossed her arms, her long limbs flexing as she shifted her weight. "We have no choice. The Ordrak are not an enemy we can defeat alone, and the humans are our best chance. Their minds work in ways we don't fully understand, but that is precisely what we need." Nixel nodded, his mind drifting. "Still, we must be careful. The alliance is fragile. Any sign of deceit on our part, and they could turn against us." Kryn's expression remained unreadable. "Deceit is not necessary. We need only guide them." Earth's hidden potential. On Earth, General Vasquez and Dr. Clark worked closely with their teams, analyzing the data the Zolfran had shared about the Ordrak. It was overwhelming. The Ordrak fleet was massive, larger than anything humanity had ever imagined, let alone encountered. Their ships were not just war machines, they were living entities, grown and bred for battle. Each one was as much a biological organism as it was a vessel. Dr. Clark, who had spent countless hours studying the data, rubbed his tired eyes as he stared at the holographic projections before him. "They're ships, they adapt, they regenerate. It's like nothing we've ever seen. How do we fight something like that?" Elena stood beside him, arms crossed as she observed the fleet map. "We can't outgun them, but maybe we don't have to." Clark looked up, intrigued. "Go on, look at the Fran," Elena continued. "They're powerful, advanced, and yet they're losing. Why? Because they've been fighting the Ordrak on the Ordrak's terms. We need to find a way to disrupt that. We need to be unpredictable." Clark's eyes lit up as he grasped her meaning. Guerrilla tactics. Disrupt, confuse, hit them where they least expect it. "Exactly," Elena agreed. "The Zolfran have been playing defense for too long. It's time to change the rules of the game." The first strike. They had been reluctant at first. Guerrilla tactics were not part of their strategic repertoire. They were a species of order and precision, preferring to face their enemies head-on with overwhelming force. But as they watched the human strategists lay out their plan, they began to see the potential in this new approach. The plan was simple in its complexity: small, coordinated strikes on key Ordrak supply lines and communication hubs. The humans had identified weaknesses in the Ordrak's logistical network, points that, if disrupted, could slow their advance and give the Zolfran much-needed breathing room. The first mission would be a test, a joint effort between human and Zolfran forces. A small fleet of ships, piloted by both species, would strike an Ordrak supply convoy deep in enemy territory. It was risky, but if successful, it could shift the momentum of the war. As the fleet prepared for departure, there was a palpable sense of anticipation. Human soldiers, outfitted with advanced Zolfran technology, stood side by side with their alien counterparts. There was still an air of unease between them, but the shared goal of survival forged a tentative bond. Elena, who had insisted on leading the mission, stood at the helm of the command ship. She looked out over her crew, both human and Ulfran, and addressed them. "I won't lie to you," she began. "This is dangerous. We're going deep into enemy territory, and we don't know exactly what we'll face out there. But we're prepared. We're smart, and we're capable. The Ordrak think they've won, but they haven't faced us yet. Today, we show them what humanity and the Zolfran are made of." There was a murmur of agreement, and the ship's engines hummed to life as the fleet prepared to jump into hyperspace. Into the abyss. The jump to the Ordrak's territory was unnerving. The space around them seemed darker, more hostile, as if the very fabric of the universe twisted in their presence. The Ordrak territory was littered with the remnants of civilizations they had annihilated. Asteroid fields, made from the debris of shattered planets, derelict ships floating aimlessly in the void. All ships in position, came the voice of one of the Zolfran pilots over the comms. Elena nodded. "Hold steady. We wait for the convoy to appear." Minutes ticked by, each one heavier than the last. Then the sensors began to light up. The Ordrak convoy was approaching, massive, organic-looking ships, pulsing with an eerie, bioluminescent glow. "On my mark," Elena said quietly, "we strike hard and fast." The tension in the room was palpable. Then, as the convoy drew closer, Elena gave the order. "Now." The human Zolfran fleet surged forward, weapons blazing. Energy beams and missiles tore through the darkness, striking the Ordrak ships with precision. The Ordrak, caught off guard, scrambled to respond. Their ships were powerful, but slow to react to such an unexpected assault. Clark, monitoring the battle from the command deck, watched as the convoy's formation began to break. "It's working," he muttered in disbelief. "It's actually working." But the victory was short-lived. As the human Zolfran fleet pressed their advantage, a new signal appeared on the sensors. A much larger Ordrak warship, dwarfing the others, was heading straight for them. "We've got a problem," Clark said urgently. "That's one of their main battleships. We need to retreat now." Elena gritted her teeth. "All ships, fall back to the rendezvous point." The fleet disengaged, turning back toward the safety of their own territory. But the Ordrak warship was fast, much faster than the smaller convoy ships. It closed the distance rapidly, firing devastating energy blasts that ripped through space. One of the Zolfran ships took a direct hit, its hull cracking open like an eggshell. The human and Zolfran crews inside barely had time to scream before they were consumed by the vacuum of space. "We won't make it," one of the human pilots said, panic rising in his voice. "Keep moving," Elena ordered. "We're almost there." But the Ordrak ship was relentless, firing volley after volley. Another ship was hit, and then another. The fleet was being decimated. As the surviving ships prepared to make the jump to hyperspace, Elena glanced back at the burning wreckage of the Zolfran ship. They had won the battle, but the cost had been higher than they had anticipated. A new reality. Back on Earth, the mood was somber. The mission had been a tactical success, but it had revealed just how powerful the Ordrak were. The humans and Zolfran had only scratched the surface of their enemy's true strength. In the command center, Dr. Clark reviewed the battle footage with a heavy heart. "We're in over our heads," he said quietly. "The Ordrak are far more dangerous than we thought." Elena, standing beside him, didn't respond immediately. She stared at the screen, watching as the Ordrak warship obliterated their fleet, her face expressionless. Finally, she spoke. "We need to find another way." Uneasy alliances. Tensions between humans and the Zolfran rose as losses mounted. Trust was hard to maintain, with both sides questioning each other's commitment. Elena, determined to unite the forces, pushed for more joint missions. During a critical diplomatic meeting, Kryn revealed the Zolfran's ultimate weapon, a device capable of destabilizing Ordrak biology. However, its use could risk catastrophic consequences for both species. Elena and General Vasquez faced a moral dilemma. Should they use the weapon, knowing it might backfire, or continue with guerrilla tactics? Meanwhile, Nixel uncovered a dark truth: the Ordrak were evolving faster than expected. Time was running out. Uneasy alliances. Tensions between humans and the Zolfran rose as losses mounted. Trust was hard to maintain, with both sides questioning each other's commitment. Elena, determined to unite the forces, pushed for more joint missions. During a critical diplomatic meeting, Kryn revealed the Zolfran's ultimate weapon, a device capable of destabilizing Ordrak biology. However, its use could risk catastrophic consequences for both species. Elena and General Vasquez faced a moral dilemma. Should they use the weapon, knowing it might backfire, or continue with guerrilla tactics? Meanwhile, Nixel uncovered a dark truth: the Ordrak were evolving faster than expected. Time was running out. Desperate measures. The Alliance's only hope rested on a daring mission to infiltrate the Ordrak's hive world and plant the destabilizing device. Elena volunteered to lead the mission, accompanied by a hand-picked team of humans and Zolfran. Along the way, they discovered horrifying evidence of the Ordrak's ultimate plan, a complete assimilation of both human and Zolfran DNA. Infiltrating the hive world was treacherous, with Ordrak patrols everywhere. The team encountered strange new creatures, mutations that blurred the line between organic and mechanical life. As they reached their target, Nixel was forced to reveal another secret. The Zolfran had once tried to create a superweapon that failed, leading to the Ordrak's rapid evolution. Betrayal. Just as the team was about to activate the destabilizing device, they were betrayed. A rogue Zolfran officer, disillusioned by the Alliance, sabotaged the mission, believing that destroying the Ordrak would doom both species. Chaos erupted, and the team found themselves fighting not only the Ordrak, but also their own. Elena barely managed to regain control, but the device was damaged. Time was running out, and the Ordrak fleet was closing in. Nixel, guilt-ridden over the betrayal, made a desperate sacrifice to buy them more time. In the final moments, Elena had to decide: fix the device or abort the mission and return to warn humanity. The final stand. The Ordrak began their final assault on both Earth and the Zolfran homeworld. Elena and her team, battered and exhausted, returned to Earth just in time to deliver their grim news. The destabilizing device was beyond repair, and the Ordrak were more powerful than ever. With no other options, humanity and the Zolfran launched a last-ditch defense, using every resource at their disposal. Elena, now a seasoned leader, rallied the combined forces for a final stand. The battle was brutal and relentless, with both sides suffering catastrophic losses. In a moment of sheer desperation, Elena discovered a latent potential within the Zolfran technology, something neither species had fully understood. By merging human creativity with Zolfran precision, they devised a new weapon, a fusion of biology and technology that could target the Ordrak's core. In the final, heart-pounding moments, they unleashed it. As the Ordrak fleet crumbled, a fragile peace dawned. The Alliance had survived, but at a great cost. Both species stood at a crossroads, forever changed by the war and uncertain of what the future held.